My next trading plan for Bitcoin, Ethereum and Chainlink. We won't waste any time and we are going to dive straight into it. Over here on Bitcoin, like I stated, the last week's prediction played out perfectly. I told you guys, Bitcoin will remain choppy, Bitcoin will remain to range until proven otherwise. We have a beautiful range with pivot number 1 at the end of the impulsive move. Pivot number 2, and we can say that this our one level of resistance that exactly is at the top of the previous week to be our third pivot, or the third pivot is over here, and then we also have our fourth and fifth pivot at the range low area. Now we can see that we have seen a tiny sweep of the range high liquidity pool and a tiny little sweep of the range low liquidity pool. I've been teaching you guys that these tiny little sweeps into those liquidity pools usually aren't sufficient enough in order to really call it a mitigation of the liquidity pool, and so they cannot be trusted. So what I'm patiently waiting for is for Bitcoin to mitigate the range low liquidity pool. And with a mitigation, I mean a proper push in towards the range low liquidity pool, mitigate it, and this is an interesting spot. Why is this an interesting spot? Because besides the fact that we have a range low liquidity pool there, we also have a breaker area over here, right? Supply was coming into the market over here that led to this impulse to the downside, but then the supply was being ignored as resistance and we bursted straight through it. We didn't only burst through it, but we also put in a bullish fair value gap exactly where we have that breaker block. And that is what we call a unicorn setup, whatever. It's very, very important confluence for this breaker block to become high probability. So we have a high probability breaker block exactly aligning below the range low. Now also, if we switch on the EMAs, we can see that not on a 1 hourly, I also believe on the 2 hourly, we have the 200 estimated moving average exactly aligning with that bullish breaker block. And on the 4 hourly time frame, we can see that we have the 100 EMA on the 4 hourly time frame, also an extremely important EMA exactly aligning with the breaker block. So to come to a conclusion, we can see that over here below the range low area is where we have some very important confluences lining up. Does that mean that we can simply long it like this, put our stop loss below the breaker, anticipate a deviation and then target the range high? In my opinion, this is not the play. Why? Because I think that many people are going to use these confluences to enter a trade and put their stop over here. So I think it could be an easy target for smart money to also sweep their stops and then reverse the price back towards the upside. The deviation can go as low as this one over here. In the end, if we reclaim the range low, then the deviation is still confirmed and we can still play it towards the range high. So in my opinion, the play here is to patiently wait for a mitigation of that liquidity pool, then identify the trend and wait for a mitigation of that liquidity pool, and then a reclaim of that range low in confluence with a shift in structure, at least on the 1 hourly time frame. So if you then get the shift in structure with the mitigation of the range low liquidity pool, with a reclaim of that range low, that's where we can identify multiple areas for a potential higher low, enter the trade, have a clean invalidation and a clean target, and this offers a high probability trade setup. Before we move to the very interesting Chainlink chart, let's also discuss Ethereum, because I also have a potential trade setup in mind for Ethereum. We know that my target has been $2,965 above this week for a pretty long period of time, ever since we were trading over here. We reached my first target, but I have extended my target towards the buy side liquidity over here around $3,580. Now, in order to trigger a potential trade, we have to realize that we are currently near a pivotal mid-range of the previous bull market range that we formed with our range high pivot over here and 3 range low pivots over here. So this makes this a pivotal mid-range level. Now we go to the lower time frames to identify the current local price section in order to identify a trigger that could trigger a long position with as a target $3,580. Now currently what we can see around this mid-range level is that we are potentially creating a fake break of structure over here, right? Why is this a fake break of structure? Because this high, right, did not bring us to a new low compared to this low that brought us to that high. So it's not a significant high to break. But people think that we break out above these highs, above this resistance level, right? And we should target higher levels. And what we are currently seeing is a perfect retest of the previous resistance area. I usually don't trust these. If we see a retest of the previous resistance area, which is very obvious, in confluence with a fake break of structure, I think that people are opening up long positions over here with their stop loss beneath this low or beneath this low, and the target being $3,580. As you can see, the RR makes sense as well. So that means that we have identified a very important liquidity pool, which is resting beneath this low over here or beneath the low over here. This is where important liquidity aligns for Ethereum. Now we can also see that beneath this important liquidity is where we have this previous piece of price action that initiated the impulse towards the upside over here, right? We can even refine this to that bullish order block that we have over here on the 4-hourly time frame. All in all, it's important that we have important liquidity, that we are potentially deviating over here above that key mid-range level, but also above this previous resistance area, that I personally, in order to jump into a trade, would like to see a mitigation of at least the liquidity pool that we have resting over here. Now the daily trend is still towards the upside, so I'm not looking for shorts. What I'm doing instead is that I'm going to remove this. I'm going to set my horizontal ray over here around this liquidity pool. I'm going to set my alert. I'm going to wait for Ethereum to get a push towards that liquidity pool. And inside of the liquidity pool, I would like to see confirmation on the 15-minute or 1-hourly time frame in order to play it back up. With confirmation, I mean that I have to analyze the local downtrend over here, identify the high that we need to break. If we open and close candles above that high, I'm going to play the higher low and I'm going to target new yearly highs. Very easy and obvious plan. Once again, I think the charts are looking extremely interesting. All that the charts are indicating right now, though, is that we need a bit of patience. And patience is something that as a trader, you have to master in order to become profitable. If you're looking at these charts right now and think, but Puru, I want a trade setup right now. Why are you not giving exact entry, stop loss, and take profit? Because my system is telling me to wait. My system is telling me in order for me to get an A+ setup, I have to remain patient over here and I have to wait for my system to give me a trigger. Then last but not least, a very clean range on Chainlink. We can see that we have our range low pivot number 1, pivot number 2, expand higher, pivot number 3. We can even say that this is our 4th pivot over here. Now we see that we have a very important range. We can also see that these two range low pivots are potentially creating an inducement for that previous resistance area, right? So we have the previous resistance area over here, right? Previous range high over here, and now potentially we are retesting that range high before higher. We know that we do not like to play a simple retest of those very obvious range high areas and then put our stop loss over here, over here, over here, over here, and target higher levels. No, we know that if we break out above such an important range high area as we saw over here, and we are creating a bullish retest, then we want to see confirmation and signs of strength in order to position ourselves long. Because otherwise, if we zoom out, this might simply turn into a deviation over here, a reclaim, and then expansion lower, right? So I'm not going to simply play these perfect retests of the previous range high with our stop over here and then target new highs, right? I want to see a sign of strength on the 4-hourly time frame. Because we also have to realize that currently the 4-hourly time frame is trending to the downside. Because we opened and closed multiple candles over here below this low that brought us to this very significant high, right? So a shift to the downside. Also the local trend on the 4-hourly time frame, we can see low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, potential lower high. So what I'm waiting for is once again a mitigation of the range low liquidity pool in which we are going to retest some very important levels, a sign of strength in the form of a break of structure, play the higher low, target new yearly highs, right? Also, what could be a scenario instead of this high is that we are going to create a new significant high after that first low. So maybe we form a first low, then a lower high. This becomes a significant lower high as long as it brings us to a fresh low. Sweep the low, shift structure, reclaim the range low, identify POIs for a higher low. That's where we enter, invalidation over here, and target new yearly highs and a bullish expansion for Chainlink. Now as a bullish expansion target, I have something very, very interesting. I can see that not on the weekly, I believe, but on the monthly time frame over here, is that we have this monthly huge wick on the monthly time frame over here, right? And we know that the 50% wick fill level is usually a big magnet for the price. And we can see that the 50% wick fill level is around $24. So if a scenario like this plays out, we have a very clear high time frame drawn liquidity that we can then target. So if I'm going to sketch the scenario over here, let's say we are going to get a sweep, lower high, another sweep, higher high, shift structure, and we are going to play an aggressive retest over here with an invalidation over here, and as a target $24, we can see that this trade potentially is going to offer us a beautiful RR of approximately 6. I hope you guys enjoyed today's weekly outlook video on Bitcoin, Ethereum and Chainlink. If you guys do, please guys make sure to smash up the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would absolutely mean the world to us. If you guys do have any questions after watching today's video, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and then I'll catch you guys on Wednesday's video. Ciao, ciao!